While the coronavirus pandemic is extracting a huge toll on lives and livelihoods, it's enlightening to observe the results of the massively reduced human activity. The astonishing aspect is the speed with which Mother Nature is reasserting natural processes, at least temporarily. Pollution. Satellite images from the European Space Agency show a dramatic reduction in air pollution in just months since the outbreak of COVID-19. With a worldwide shutting down of industry and restrictions on car and air travel, levels of nitrogen dioxide over urban and industrial hubs are drastically reduced. Nitrogen dioxide is generated by car engines, power plants and other industrial activity, and has been outed by the World Health Organization as exacerbating respiratory illnesses like asthma. While it is not a greenhouse gas, its decline enhances air quality and health outcomes for people with respiratory problems, as well as plant growths in food sources. Experts like Paul Monks, Professor of Air Pollution at the University of Leicester, have declared that a high level of air pollution increases viral uptake through causing inflammation and lowered immunity. The World Health Organization is now investigating whether airborne particles of the toxic NO2 gas may actually be a vector for the spread of COVID-19 and make it more virulent. In just 2 months of lockdown in Wuhan, China, initially the epicenter of the pandemic, a massive drop in air pollution has been measured by NASA. Normally, the city of 11 million people functions as a major transportation hub and home to hundreds of factories manufacturing car parts and other hardware for global supply chains. Nitrogen dioxide levels across eastern and central China have recently dropped by 10 to 30%. A recent 25% drop in energy use and emissions in China is also likely to create an overall fall of about 1% in China's carbon emissions this year. Similar NO2 reductions have been observed in South Korea and Britain, while levels have strikingly fallen in Italy's industrial north by 40%. Reductions in road traffic, which is the biggest polluter in Europe and Britain, are thought to account for changes in those regions. Similar trends have emerged in the US, where researchers in New York report early findings that carbon monoxide, which is mainly from cars, has plummeted by nearly 50% compared with last year. Emissions of the planet-heating gas CO2 have also drastically reduced by 5 to 10%, with methane levels also significantly dropping. Despite the prevalence of people now working from home, causing increased domestic consumption of power, scientists are predicting that widespread social isolation and the overall economic slowdown could well reduce global emissions and air pollution. Another astonishing change is the dramatic reduction in water pollution. That traveller's icon, the Venice Canal, is normally a hectic crush of crowds of tourists in gondolas and cruise ships, but is suddenly crystal clear, as snapped in photos by Twitter user @FollenAlberto. Cruise ships are regularly seen sailing into the Venice lagoon and have caused dangerous levels of pollution, never giving the water a chance to clear. Typically, every month, 700,000 visitors would be arriving in Venice by cruise ship and other vessels, with the city hosting a total of 20 million tourists per year. With the abrupt halt on tourism, the water clarity of ancient times had been restored when, even post-World War II, it was possible to bathe in the lagoon. Monk suggests that the biggest experiment that we humans did not want gives hope that moving to a low-carbon economy will bring improvements in agriculture and human health. However, the gains may only be short-term, depending upon the kinds of government stimulus plans post-pandemic, which could cause a rapid reversion to previous pollution levels. Animals. Wildlife that would habitually stay away from the Italian coast and Venice Canal appears to have returned as the water loses its green tinge thanks to the downturn in tourism and absence of docking cruise ships. Without boats stirring up the layer of sandy sediment, schools of tiny silverfish have returned to the now clear Venice Canal water, while crabs scuttle amongst the colourful plant wreath growth. With the lack of boat traffic in Venice, groups of majestic white swans, cormorants, ducks and other birdlife have returned to the canal. Although the story of dolphins frolicking there has been debunked, happily dolphins have been uniquely spotted swimming around two now empty seaports, including Cagliari on the Italian island of Sardinia. Other Italian tweeters have also reported rare sightings of wild boars wandering through towns and ducks in the fountains of Rome. One family of ducks has even built a nest at a Vaporetto stop in Venice. In many parts of the world in lockdown or quarantine, wild animals which live in hiding on the periphery of cities are starting to become emboldened to venture out and explore. In Nara, Japan, sika deer have been sighted wandering through city streets and subway stations. The deer are quite used to humans, with many sightseers lining up year-round to ply them with rice crackers. However, with no people visiting the park, the deer have started encroaching into the city to seek food. The elegant creatures can be seen crossing city streets and trotting through subway stations, snacking on potted plants. Other reports include 3 raccoons who were seen frolicking near the sea line on the usually crowded but now empty beach in the deserted San Felipe, Panama. And wild turkeys have been seen in a vacant school playground in Oakland, California. In Thailand, a colony of monkeys at Prang Samyot Temple in Lopburi, northeast of Bangkok, has also been dependent on tourists for sustenance. While monkeys are commonly seen in the streets, a large crowd of monkeys became so desperate they were filmed brawling over a single scrap of food. Tourism has also plummeted in Thailand, and a local attributed the monkeys' fighting to the fact that there is not enough food being offered by tourists. This sided good news story is that critically endangered hawksbill turtles in Brazil have seized the day and laid their eggs in the sands along the northeast coast. Nearly 100 of their offspring have hatched on the now deserted beach in Brazil. Their first steps in making their way down to the sea were for once not witnessed by ogling crowds because of coronavirus restrictions that now ban people from thronging along the scenic shoreline. The 97 hawksbill sea turtles, or tartarugas de pente as they are called in Brazil, were born in Paulista, a town in the northeastern state of Pernambuco. Government workers were the only people to witness the birthing, photographing the tiny creatures venturing down the beach and entering the Atlantic waves. Locals were forbidden from observing the event after the state government decreed a partial shutdown, when he urged residents to remain indoors to delay the spread of coronavirus. Not quite a return to nature, but these heartwarming images were posted online when 2 American zoos granted its resident penguins the run of the place, following closure and lockdown. The Shed Aquarium in Chicago commented on social media, "While this may be a strange time for us, these days feel normal for animals at Shed." In the real world, the silver lining of the COVID-19 pandemic is that it doesn't seem to take long before nature pushes a reset button and areas that were once exclusively human are recolonized. 2 artists have depicted a post-human scenario in a series of photographs of miniature dioramas, which show familiar scenes when nature has reclaimed our spaces. The timely work by Laurie Nix and Kathleen Gerber was actually completed well before the COVID-19 pandemic, but was intended to provoke contemplation on the future of humans after an unknown catastrophe. The tiny dystopian scenes show self-sown trees growing up through large derelict buildings, rusted-out control rooms, and long-abandoned shops, cafes and subways. However, the artists described the exhibition as weirdly hopeful, perhaps that we humans are survivors, even if sometimes we have to rethink some lifestyle preferences and reinvent our future.